Welcome to our presentation on human population growth and natural resources, human impact on the environment. Let me say that to start off with, that humans are going to impact the environment by our presence being here. There's nothing we can do to make that go away. What we're looking at is maybe minimizing our impact on the ecosystem by making smart choices and earth healthy choices. But as population grows, the demand for Earth's resources increases. If there's more people, there's going to be more need for clean water, for food, for a place to get rid of our wastes in a hopefully ecologically proper way, but that isn't always the case. So, just as probably the biggest problem is a growing human population. If we just cut down all the trees and plow up all the fields to maximize our food production, there's just nothing left for the earth to use its abilities to recycle and replenish. Human population continues to grow, as I said a little bit earlier. That's sort of the biggest problem that there is. I mean, humans wouldn't have such a terrible impact, or terrible is maybe the wrong word, but large impact, if the numbers of us weren't quite so large. We don't know what the carrying capacity is because, yes, if we cut down every forest and plow every field, fence post to fence post, we can increase food production to a point. But at that point, then are we preventing the earth from, again, recycling, as we've learned, and reusing the resources and waste products that are produced from population of the earth, humans. You can see it was kind of steady, slightly growing until the Industrial Revolution, until we started using fossil fuels to supplement our um, uh, ability to grow food and move around. Cars, tractors, planes, trains. Back in the day when everything was animal driven, we couldn't have that many people, we couldn't generate that much food. And then all of a sudden the Industrial Revolution came along, and on the backs of fossil fuels we have been able to increase our standard of living, if you will, and that, along with that, increase the population. Technology also has increased Earth's carrying capacity by medicines that, thousands people didn't live as long as they do now. People, uh, diseases that we don't even think of. Oh, we'll get a little bit of an infection, go to the doctor, get an antibiotic, and we don't even think twice about it. Those kinds of things were deadly 100 years ago. As I mentioned earlier, gas-powered farm equipment, gas-powered cars, oil-based planes, trains, things like that allow us to move food around, resources around, people around, and increase our ability to utilize Earth's resources and increase our population. The growing population exerts pressure on Earth's natural resources. Non-renewables are used faster than they form. Coal, oil, these non-renewables can't be renewed, and when they're gone, they're gone. Renewable resources cannot be used up and can, replenish themselves over time, such as wind, water, sunlight. We Growing use of non-renewable resources may lead to a crisis. The crisis being that they start to run out. Resources must be properly managed and planned out for the future. Here we have a wind farm, and the wind doesn't always blow, and the sun doesn't always shine. So we can't rely on wind and solar panels exclusively, but in combination with things like maybe nuclear power, and hopefully some technologies that will grow in the future, that will be able to get fusion, things like that. We can better manage our our need for energy, the energy that keeps our population up. Effective management of the Earth's resources will help meet the needs of the future. This is an example of Easter Island, where in hundreds of years ago, a group of people immigrated to this island, and there was a pretty nice place to live, and their populations got larger. But in the process, they cut down the trees that were there for their dwellings and for their lives. And in the end, when they cut the last tree down and there were no more trees, no more seeds to grow more trees, the island became treeless. They even lost their ability to build boats to move off, and the populations crashed. And when European people sailed their boats and found this island, they found all these carvings and everything that were all over the place, huge faces from a religion, from a people that were gone. So we need to use our resources responsibly, sustainably, long term, not 5, 10 years, but 500 years. Yes, careless use of resources make them unavailable to future generations. So if certain resource, they cut all their trees down, their children had no trees to make houses, burn wood for fires, cooking, and even to decide we can't live here anymore, let's get on a boat and try to find another island. Trees are all gone. This is an example of irresponsible resource use. They didn't know any better. We are starting to. We understand ecology, and we're starting to know better, so we should be more responsible. The ecological footprint is the amount of land needed to support a person. The land can produce and maintain food and water, and that's clean water, shelter, energy, what to do with waste. If we're going to have a society that's built on energy, we need to manage it and sustain it, and be careful about its waste products, carbon dioxide, and the other wastes that we generate, the wastewater, waste food, and the things that we use and throw away. Should we just throw them into the ground, or are some of them products of human production that really are not renewable, recyclable? Plastics can really not be broken down and returned to the soil as a resource for the ecosystem. So should we recycle those? Should we do something more with those instead of just throwing them in a hole in the ground? Several factors affect the size of the ecological footprint: the amount and efficiency of the resources used, amount of toxicity, mercury, PCBs, and of waste produced. So it's not just the amount of waste, but how toxic it is. How does it stay in the ecosystem and build up? Here's a slide of our ecological footprint versus our population, and I mean, we're pretty much the mirror image of Asia. They have almost a much larger population and a much smaller ecological imprint. We are by far in this general area of the land masses, almost the smallest population, and many times the footprint of some of our neighbors. So maybe we could be better at reducing our footprint, living a little bit more in harmony with the earth. Now, with that said, I will say again, the presence of humans will have an impact on the environment, on the ecosystems. There's no way around that. It's can we minimize that ecological footprint, or sometimes they call it the carbon footprint, because it's how much carbon we utilize and release into the atmosphere per person. Can we minimize that in the best factor possible?